I want to share with you a very common problem I see with very good players, and one we just tackled with one of our clients here at my facility at the Raven Golf Club Phoenix. And that is this issue that pretty good players tend to have of blocking the ball to the right, hooking the ball back to the left, and when they video their golf swing, possibly using their iPhones or some of the apps that are out there, seeing an impact where the shaft angle is considerably more vertical than it was in the address position. So what happened with this particular player, and what often happens with pretty good players, is that this golf club could potentially get a little bit steep in the transition. And as the club is transitioning too steep, a steep downswing is really going to hit the ground a little bit too hard. So steep means down. If you were skiing down a steep slope, it's going down a lot. If you were flying in an airplane that had a steep angle of descent, it's crashing into the ground, again, it's coming too much down into the turf. So basically, this player gets the shaft coming down a little bit too steep, so what does he have to do? He has to find a way to shallow out his angle of descent so that he can get into the golf ball with a nice safe landing. So if we're using this airplane analogy, we're coming in too steep, we're going to crash, it's not going to be good. What is the pilot going to do? He's going to try and pull up, shallow out the landing, again create a safe landing for all the passengers. So in golf, the same basic thing occurs. If the shaft is coming down too steep, the player has to start to shallow it out. Well, if we start to shallow it out and we end up right on plane and we swing through from here, everything's going to be okay. But most players, they're going to shallow out beyond that position. So as we start to shallow out beyond that position, the shaft gets too flat. When the shaft gets too flat, it can tend to swing too much to the right of our target. If the face and path are matching each other, the ball is going to block to the right. If the face gets a little bit close to the path, the ball is going to hook back to the left. If we're swinging off to the right, we might also tend to be ascending, again giving us a very high golf shot. Now, if you look at this shallowing move, notice how as the shaft shallows or flattens, how the hands will actually start to raise up and move away from our body. So as that occurs, you can see how it impacts. The hands would end up too much away and the shaft is too vertical. So a lot of times I have good players come in, they're hitting these shots, and one of the things they say is they go, hey, I got a question. Why is my shaft so vertical at impact relative to where it started? And it all has to do with this balancing out of steepening and then shallowing. So if we're going to try and fix this, get our golf ball to fly more on line, on a lower trajectory, less curve to the left, and of course getting the shaft more lined up with where it started, we have to flip around these conditions. So if we think about this airplane analogy again, let's say this is the runway, and here comes our airplane, and now it's coming in on too shallow of a descent angle. So if we stay too shallow, this thing's never going to land on the runway. It's going to go ahead and fly right past the airport. So if this thing's coming in shallow, the pilot's going to say, you know what, I have to steepen out my descent to bam, put the wheels down, and I still get my safe landing. So if you apply this to your golf swing, you could say that as you get to the top, if I could transition with this shaft flatter, so that now the grip end is pointed well out beyond the ball versus down to the ball or inside of my feet, now I'm creating a shallower angle of attack. So when people look at their golf swings on video, it's very common to draw a line across the shaft at address. As you get to the top and as you transition, you want to see this shaft angle at the top and transitioning parallel to its original shaft angle. So a big mistake that a lot of people make is they think this grip end has got to be pointed down towards the target line. That's not true, especially as it relates to the top of the swing. So you want to see this shaft quite a bit flatter in parallel to where that golf club started. So if we're coming in shallower, now we have permission to steepen our angle of attack. So what's going to happen from here? The handle is going to start to lower. The hands are going to come down closer to the body. The face is going to be able to turn more squarely into the back of the ball. And now we have this impact with the arms nice and close and the shaft angle of impact matching where the shaft angle started. So this one particular player I was working with, he really liked the swings of Sam Snead and Ben Hogan. He said, you know what, how in the world do these players get to the ball and have this classic look where the shaft is matching perfectly where it started? The hips are turned, that right arm is kind of close to the body, hugging behind the back of the right hip. How do they do that? Well, I explained that it's all about this balancing act of steep and shallow influences. And the moment he started coming down with the shaft too vertical, he had to shallow, the handle got pushed away, the hands got pushed up high, and there you go. So, if you're one of these players who's blocking right, hooking left, putting your swings on video and saying, why in the world is my shaft angle so high? I guarantee it's got something to do with balancing a steep with a shallow and how this club is trying to fit into the back of your golf ball. So the next time you go out, draw that line on your video, make your backswing, feel your transition so that the grip end is pointed well out past the ball. Try and find that position where the shaft is paralleling where it starts. From here, realize that the shaft is so shallow that we can now steepen. The handle's going to lower, the face turns into the back of the ball, the face and the path are more on the target. We're going to get a lower trajectory, a cleaner hit, and you're going to have that classic look that you've been looking for. So hopefully that made sense. Understand a little bit about steeps and shallows, especially if you're hitting this basic ball flight I described. I guarantee it'll help.